There's something profoundly captivating about mystery. You see, when a person reveals every detail about themselves too quickly, when they rush to expose every story, every thought, every vulnerability, they remove the element of discovery. And discovery is what keeps people invested. The truth is, men are wired to pursue, to explore, to unravel layers. But if there's nothing to unravel, if the entire book is already read on the first night, then the pursuit ends before it even begins. Mystery isn't about playing games, nor is it about deception. It's about recognizing the immense value of your own depth and allowing that depth to be revealed gradually, like a fine piece of art that requires time to be fully appreciated. Think about it. The most powerful stories are not the ones that dump all the answers on you in the first chapter. They are the ones that entice you, that hint at something more beneath the surface, that keep you turning the page because you want to understand the next layer. People are the same way. When you're mysterious, you invite curiosity, you invite interest, you allow space for someone to wonder, to imagine, to chase. This is not about being secretive for the sake of manipulation. It's about cultivating an aura that says, there is more to me than you know, and I don't need to reveal it all at once. Men crave that sense of pursuit. They crave the unknown. And the tragedy is that so many women, in their hunger to be understood or validated, strip themselves bare emotionally and psychologically in the very beginning, leaving nothing left to explore. The result, interest fades, not because she isn't valuable, but because she has given away the mystery that would have kept him engaged. Restraint is not coldness. Restraint is dignity. It is a statement that you are worth the effort of being discovered slowly, thoughtfully, intentionally. When you practice mystery, you command presence without raising your voice. You create allure without needing to force attention. You draw others in, not by desperate display, but by quiet strength. This is a paradox of human nature. What is slightly out of reach is often the most desired. And when you place your inner world just slightly beyond immediate grasp, you elevate its value in the eyes of those around you. You're not just another open book lying around to be skimmed. You become a story worth chasing, a world worth entering. Mystery also allows you to protect yourself, because when you reveal everything too soon, you give power away, power to be misjudged, to be dismissed, to be taken for granted. But when you move carefully, when you share parts of yourself slowly and selectively, you maintain sovereignty over your story. You decide who earns the right to access the deeper parts of who you are. This isn't about building walls. It's about opening the gates only to those who have proven they deserve entry. And here's the secret. Mystery is not about hiding. It's about timing. It's about patience. It's about allowing space for anticipation, for tension, for curiosity to build. Think of music. If every note were played at once, it would be nothing but noise. But when the notes are revealed in order, with pauses and silences in between, they create a melody that captures the soul. Your life, your essence, your personality is that melody. Don't rush the song. Don't give away the final note in the opening measure. When you embody mystery, you awaken something primal in men. They lean in closer. They wonder what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what makes you move the way you do. They don't just want to look at you, they want to understand you, but they know they'll never fully succeed. And that endless pursuit, that inability to completely capture the essence of who you are, is what keeps them coming back. Because mystery never truly ends, it only deepens, so remember this. When you carry yourself with mystery, you become unforgettable. You become the woman who doesn't have to demand attention, because attention naturally flows toward you. Not because you are loud, not because you are chasing, but because you are grounded in the quiet, magnetic truth that your soul cannot be fully possessed. And that truth, above all, is what makes men beg for your attention. There's a certain kind of presence that cannot be faked, a quality that speaks louder than any words, and that is self, SelfWorth. When a woman truly knows her value, when she carries within herself the certainty that she does not need to prove it to anyone, something remarkable happens. She becomes magnetic. Men sense it instantly. They can feel when a woman is grounded in her own worth, when she is not looking outward for validation, but instead radiating from a place of inner fullness. It's not arrogance, it's not pride, it's dignity, and dignity is irresistible. Most people, without realizing it, live as though their value must constantly be negotiated. They bend themselves, they compromise, they tolerate treatment far below what they deserve, all because deep down they haven't yet anchored themselves in the reality of their own worth. But the moment you decide, truly decide, that your value is not dependent on who notices you, who approves of you, or who chooses you, everything changes. You stop begging for scraps, and you begin to command respect simply by the way you carry yourself. Men are drawn to women who do not chase, not because they are cold or detached, but because they live as if they are already complete. There is a difference between needing someone and choosing someone. When you operate from need, you give away your power. You bend to please, you compromise your standards. But when you operate from self-worth, your choices carry weight. A man knows that if he mistreats you, you will walk away not in bitterness, but in strength. That quiet strength commands more respect than any words could. You see, when you cultivate unshakable self-worth, you stop trying to impress and instead start to express. You live authentically, without fear of rejection, because you know rejection cannot diminish your value. Your worth isn't up for debate. It doesn't rise when someone praises you, and it doesn't fall when someone criticizes you. It simply is, and when you embody that truth, you liberate yourself from the exhausting cycle of proving and pleasing. That freedom itself is intoxicating to those around you. It's also important to recognize that self-worth isn't built overnight. It comes through choices. Every time you honor your boundaries, every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your values, every time you walk away from what diminishes you, you are reinforcing your worth. And men take note. They can sense when a woman respects herself. They can also sense when she does not. Respect begins within. The world treats you according to the standard you set for yourself. If you set it low, you invite disregard. If you set it high, you invite reverence. And here is the paradox. The less you rely on external approval, the more approval you naturally attract. Because nothing is more compelling than someone who does not need you to validate them. It creates a sense of intrigue, a sense of challenge, and a sense of admiration. Men chase after women who know their worth because deep down, every man wants to rise to meet that standard. He wants to earn her attention, not because she demanded it, but because her very presence required it. Understand this. Your worth is not a question to be answered by a man's opinion. It is not determined by how much attention you receive, or how quickly someone responds to your message, or whether you are chosen above others. Your worth is already inherent. The task is not to find it, but to recognize it, to live as if it were undeniable. When you live from that place, men don't just notice you. They respect you, they pursue you, they elevate themselves in your presence. And that is the secret. The world bows not to those who plead for recognition, but to those who stand firmly in the quiet, unshakable knowledge of their own value. And when you embody that truth, men will not just want your attention. They will compete for the privilege of being worthy of it. There's an undeniable power in feminine energy, though it's a power many have forgotten, or worse, been told to suppress. But the truth is, it is one of the most magnetic forces in the world. Feminine energy is not weakness, and it is certainly not passivity. It is vitality, it is warmth, it is life, giving presence. It is that quality that makes others feel at ease in your company, that draws people closer without you ever having to demand attention. Men, in particular, are pulled toward it like iron to a magnet, because it awakens in them something ancient and primal, the desire to protect, to cherish, to pursue. The tragedy of our modern world is that so many women have been told they need to harden themselves in order to survive. They are taught to compete like men, to speak like men, to posture like men, and in the process they suffocate the very energy that makes them most radiant. There is nothing wrong with strength, but strength expressed through harshness, defensiveness, or constant resistance robs you of the essence that makes you truly irresistible. Feminine energy is not about surrendering your power. It is about expressing it differently. Instead of force, it captivates through grace. Instead of control, it influences through presence. Instead of demanding, it invites. Consider this. When you walk into a room carrying joy, softness, and openness, the entire atmosphere shifts. People lean toward you. They feel drawn not because you are shouting the loudest, but because your presence is a refreshing contrast to the noise. A woman who radiates feminine energy doesn't need to prove anything. Her laughter, her gentleness, her compassion, her ability to be fully present speaks volumes, and men crave that, even if they don't always know how to articulate it. You see, men are naturally wired toward challenge and pursuit. But what makes the pursuit worthwhile is not only mystery or self-worth. It is also the way you embody femininity in a world that often feels cold and harsh. Feminine energy softens without weakening. It makes a man feel alive, needed, inspired. When he sees a woman who is joyful in her being, who moves with grace and treats herself with care, he sees something he cannot manufacture on his own. He sees life itself reflected back to him, and he longs to be part of it. Radiating feminine energy doesn't mean you suppress your ambition or silence your voice. It means you allow warmth to flow through everything you do. It means you listen as much as you speak, that you create harmony instead of unnecessary conflict, that you know how to nurture, not out of obligation, but out of the fullness of your own being. It is playful yet deep, soft yet powerful, receptive yet firm. It carries contradictions that are not contradictions at all, but rather the balance of a force that men instinctively recognize as rare and precious. And here's the paradox. When you are rooted in your feminine energy, you become more powerful, not less. Men don't just notice you. They orbit around you, because you embody something they cannot find anywhere else. You remind them of what is missing in a world dominated by stress, competition, and hardness. Your presence becomes the refuge, the spark, the very thing that reignites passion. What makes this so compelling is that feminine energy is not a mask you put on. It is who you are when you peel away the hardness the world has pressed onto you. It is not an act, it is a return to your essence, and when you allow that essence to shine, when you live in alignment with it, you don't have to beg for attention or force affection. It comes to you naturally, without struggle, without games, because life itself is drawn to life. So remember this. When you radiate feminine energy, you carry within you a power far greater than appearances or words could ever achieve. It is the energy that awakens desire, that inspires pursuit, that makes men feel alive in your presence. And when you embrace it fully, you will never need to chase love, because love itself will come chasing after you. Respect is never something you can demand with words alone. It's something you command through the way you live, through the boundaries you set, and through the standards you refuse to compromise on. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They are gates that determine who earns the privilege of being close to you. They are the lines that say, this is who I am, this is what I will accept, and this is what I will not. And the truth is, without boundaries, no matter how magnetic or radiant you are, people will test you, use you, and ultimately lose respect for you. Men in particular are drawn to women who know how to set boundaries, not because they want restrictions, but because boundaries communicate something profound: self-respect. A woman who doesn't allow herself to be treated poorly is a woman who values herself. And when you value yourself, you teach others how to value you too. Boundaries separate the serious from the shallow, the committed from the casual, the worthy from the opportunistic. They are not acts of cruelty, they are acts of clarity. The problem so many face is the fear of losing someone if they enforce their boundaries. They believe that saying no, walking away, or demanding better will drive people away, and sometimes it does. But here's the paradox: when you fail to set boundaries, when you tolerate disrespect, when you bend over backwards to be liked, you don't hold people closer. You actually push them away, because deep down, people cannot admire what they do not respect. A man may stay for convenience, but he will not truly value a woman who does not value herself. Boundaries are not just about saying no to mistreatment. They are also about creating structure for deeper intimacy. When a man encounters a woman with firm standards, he feels the challenge of having to rise up to them. And that challenge awakens something in him. It forces him to give his best, to prove himself, to show his intentions with actions rather than words. It's the presence of boundaries that allows him to feel like he has earned her attention. Without them, everything comes too easily, and what comes easily is rarely cherished. Think about it. When you set a standard that says, "I will not tolerate dishonesty," or "I will not invest in someone who cannot invest in me," you aren't pushing people away. You're making room for the right ones to step forward. You're filtering, and in doing so, you are protecting your heart, your time, and your energy. And protection of those things is not selfish, it is essential. Because if you do not guard your value, others will devalue it. And it isn't only about romantic relationships. Boundaries affect every area of life: family, friendships, work. When you communicate clearly what you will and won't accept, you create an environment where respect thrives. People stop testing you because they know the lines are real. You don't have to argue, you don't have to plead. Your consistency speaks louder than any speech you could give, and in that consistency lies true authority. This is why boundaries are not something to be feared. They are something to be embraced, because boundaries don't repel love, they refine it. They don't create distance, they create depth. They don't make you cold, they make you clear. And clarity is what attracts men who are serious, men who are strong, men who are ready to step up. Weak men walk away from boundaries. Strong men are drawn to them because they reveal that the woman before them is not one to be taken lightly. So let this truth sink in. The moment you set boundaries, you stop chasing respect and start commanding it. You no longer wonder if people value you. You know they do, because you've given them no other option. And in a world full of noise and compromise, that quiet, steady firmness is the mark of a woman who will never be overlooked, never be taken for granted, and never be forgotten. There's a reason why elegance has always carried such weight across cultures and generations. It is not just about how you look, nor is it confined to fashion or appearances. It is about how you carry yourself, the way you move through the world, the tone of your voice, and the aura you leave behind after you've walked out of the room. Elegance is presence expressed in its highest form. It doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it doesn't demand. It simply is asterisk, and in its being it commands attention effortlessly. When you embody elegance, you make a statement before a word ever leaves your mouth. A straightened posture, a calm and deliberate tone, a manner of moving that isn't rushed or frantic, but intentional, these things speak volumes. People can sense composure. They can sense refinement. And in a world overwhelmed by chaos, that composure becomes magnetic. A woman who embodies elegance doesn't need to prove her value. Her presence alone signals it. This isn't about perfection. Elegance isn't stiff or artificial. True elegance is a reflection of inner alignment. It means you've cultivated grace in how you deal with yourself, and it naturally spills into how you engage with others. When conflict arises, elegance is what allows you to respond with dignity instead of hostility. When you're overlooked or underestimated, elegance is what keeps you from lowering yourself to desperation or defensiveness. It is power wrapped in calm. It is strength expressed through restraint. And here's the paradox: elegance requires effort, but it must never look like effort. It's not about being dressed in the most expensive clothes or memorizing social scripts. It's about authenticity expressed with refinement. Your words are clear, your movements deliberate, your energy steady. This steadiness alone is deeply attractive because it signals discipline and self-respect. Men in particular are instinctively drawn to women who carry themselves with elegance because it makes them feel that they are in the presence of something rare, something refined, something worth protecting and pursuing. The way you express yourself matters, not just what you say, but how you say it. A voice filled with bitterness or chaos repels. A voice calm, measured, alive with warmth or quiet authority. This captivates. Men notice not just the content of your speech, but the cadence of it, the energy behind it. Your expression tells them whether you are in control of yourself, whether you carry self-respect, whether you embody dignity. And the truth is, no amount of external beauty can outweigh the allure of a woman who expresses herself with elegance. There is also a subtle strength in knowing when not to speak. Elegance lies in restraint, in choosing not to over-explain, not to justify, not to shout louder in order to be heard. Silence, when used wisely, is one of the most powerful forms of expression. It is mystery woven with confidence. It is a refusal to cheapen your presence by scattering it too carelessly. Men feel the weight of such silence. It compels them to lean in, to wonder, to pursue, because they can sense that you are not scrambling for validation. Elegance also creates contrast. In a culture where everything feels rushed, loud, and excessive, elegance becomes a kind of rebellion. It is the refusal to be swept away by the noise, the choice to remain centered and poised. That alone makes you unforgettable. You become the calm in the storm, the steady flame in a room full of flickering lights, and people, especially men, gravitate to that calm because it awakens a sense of reverence. Understand this: elegance is not decoration. It is not a costume you wear to impress others. It is a way of being that stems from self-respect, discipline, and an awareness of the power of presence. It elevates you above the ordinary, not because you're trying to stand above others, but because you've chosen to stand firmly within yourself. And when you embody elegance in presence and expression, you will never need to compete for attention. Your very being becomes the kind of presence people cannot ignore, the kind they admire from afar and pursue up close. For elegance, once seen, is never forgotten, and once felt, it leaves men yearning to experience it again. The most magnetic quality you can ever possess is not beauty, nor charm, nor even mystery. It is a vibrant, meaningful life that stands on its own, complete with or without a man. When you live fully, when your days are infused with purpose, joy, and vision, you create a world that others want to step into. Men are drawn to that world not because you asked them to be, not because you begged for attention, but because it becomes undeniable that being close to you means being close to life itself. Too many people fall into the trap of waiting for someone else to bring meaning to their lives. They hold back their dreams, their ambitions, their adventures, hoping that once the right person arrives, everything will suddenly feel full. But that is backwards. Fulfillment comes first. When you live as if you already have everything you need to create beauty, growth, and joy, you stop radiating lack and you start radiating abundance. Men sense that difference. They know instinctively when they are being asked to fill a void, and they know when they are being invited to share in a life already overflowing. One feels like a burden, the other feels like a gift. Living a life he wants to be part of doesn't mean performing for him. It doesn't mean curating an image that looks perfect from the outside, but is empty on the inside. It means investing in yourself so deeply that your existence has weight and meaning regardless of who joins you. Your passions, your friendships, your health, your purpose, these are not accessories. They are foundations. They make you whole, and wholeness is far more attractive than need. Imagine a woman who is pursuing her vision, who has built a life rich with experiences, who tends to her mind, her body, and her spirit with care. When a man encounters her, he sees someone who doesn't need him to rescue her, but someone who could welcome him into something greater. He doesn't feel like he is carrying her life. He feels like he is being invited into a partnership where both are elevated. That is intoxicating. That is what makes men lean forward, eager to be part of her world. The paradox is that when you stop centering your existence around being chosen, you become the one who chooses. When your life is already meaningful, you can afford to be discerning. You are not tempted by shallow offers of attention or temporary flattery because you don't need them to feel alive. Your life is already alive, and that self-sufficiency makes you infinitely more desirable. Men respect a woman who doesn't need them, but who chooses them because they add value to what she's already built. This doesn't mean you shut men out or become coldly independent. It means you hold the balance of being complete in yourself and open to connection. You're not living for him, you're living for you. But in doing so, you become the kind of woman he desperately wants to live alongside. Because he sees that without him you will still thrive, and with him you will thrive even more. That is not need, it is power. So ask yourself, are you waiting for someone to bring you life, or are you creating a life worth sharing right now? Every choice you make to invest in yourself, every moment you dedicate to growth, every boundary you uphold, and every dream you pursue builds that life brick by brick. And when you do, you will find that you no longer chase men because men will chase you, not out of convenience, but out of a deep desire to belong to a life so rich, so full, and so alive that walking away from it would feel like losing the chance to be part of something extraordinary. And that is the truth. When you live a life worth living, you will never have to beg for attention, because the right man will beg for the privilege of being written into your story. At the heart of everything we've explored lies a single truth. You do not win love, respect, or devotion by chasing it. You command it by becoming a woman so grounded, so radiant, and so alive that others cannot help but be drawn to you. When you master mystery, when you root yourself in unshakable self-worth, when you radiate feminine energy, when you set boundaries that speak louder than words, when you carry yourself with elegance, and when you build a life so rich that a man longs to be part of it, you transform the entire dynamic. You stop waiting for attention, and instead, attention becomes a natural consequence of who you are. This is not about manipulation, and it is not about playing games. It is about embodying the fullness of your own power. Because when you rise into that place, when you refuse to settle for anything less than the respect and reverence you deserve, men will not just notice you, they will pursue you, honor you, and beg for the privilege of standing beside you.